everybody, welcome back to another fantastic episode of Ready to Die Fighting. I'm Chris, and next week is National Preparedness Month. Yay! And as part of that, I want to do a lot of videos on self-defense because I enjoy self-defense, and it seems like something that doesn't get talked about quite enough. And I have a little bit of knowledge that I can share on it. But before I start diving into any of the actual drills and stuff, I wanted to kind of go over some of the exercises that I typically do so that you're familiar with them. And when we start doing the workouts, you already know them and have them down, and I can kind of skip explaining them then. And I'll just link back to this video. So I'm going to try to focus on workouts that you don't need a ton of equipment for. But if you can get a punching bag or two, that would be pretty helpful. Punching air, doing like a shadow boxing type of thing is really good, but it's definitely not the same as hitting a bag. And so if you can get a bag, do so. But if not, we'll work with what you got, work with what you got. And there's a lot of different options on bags. You can even make a bag, like that one there. It's not pretty, it's kind of weird, but it's incredibly effective. But that's pretty much, and a kettlebell. I think that's really the only equipment you'll probably need for any of these. But again, if you don't have a kettlebell, maybe there's probably something else you could use. Be creative, or just skip that exercise. Okay? All right, so let's get started. Let's start with the kettlebell. There's plenty of videos and classes and all that on how to do kettlebell swings properly, but the basic idea is it's a hip hinge type of movement. So you're using your hips to swing the kettlebell. You're not using your back, like wrenching your back to do this. And I really like this movement because so much of fighting and martial arts is in the hips. When you throw punches, the strength of it, the power of your punches comes from your hips. If you're grappling, you're on your ground, a lot of the leverage and that you use for a lot of these attacks comes from the hips and the defenses and things like that. Swinging a knife, the hips are involved in so much. And so kettlebell swings are a great dynamic movement you kind of get to work some cardio, you get to do some strength, and it's really working the hip movement there. So the idea is you just kind of, let's see. There we go. You get a nice wide stance. I usually back up, say like a step away from the kettlebell, get a weight that you're comfortable with. Grab it with two hands, like that. You're keeping your back straight. Like I said, you're not lifting with your back. And I usually just kind of let it swing, and then you're thrusting with the hips and letting momentum send it flying. Like I'm not using my shoulders here. This is all momentum from my hips and legs. Go this way. And so I usually, back up away from a little bit and kind of like hiking it like a football, just let it swing back. And a good way to practice it is kind of without a weight first. You're just trying to get that, let's see, and using the momentum coming from like kind of like a thrust kind of. There's other people that can probably explain it better than me. But that's one workout that's great to do and directly translates to being able to fight better. A variation to that I also like is while you're start in the middle, but then bring it to the sides. So kind of like alternating. And that's really going to replicate throwing punches like I said, it's coming from the hips and the feet. And so getting that rotational movement and flexibility. And so kind of, it works that. So that's another great one to do. And then coming to the side. And that really works these rotations. I don't know what you call those. Is it obliques? I don't know, but it works like the hips and your torso and just like everything all in here. It also works. I feel kind of like in my hamstrings, I think. But basically, this whole area here is getting lit up, and it's kind of building that mobility. And this is just a really important movement when you're fighting. If you're throwing somebody, if you're throwing a punch, even a lot of the kicks, you start from your hip first. That's just kind of everything comes from there. You definitely don't need a ball to do this one, but I do find it's easier and a bit more fun. So if you've got one of these big balls, definitely use it. It also gives a bit more level of realism, I think. Just a sec. Let me move this. And another movement that I think is really important is sprawls. A sprawl being if somebody kind of charges at your legs. They're trying to take you down and they go for your legs. What you want to do is kick your legs back. Basically, you're kicking your legs back and out so that you aren't being taken down. And you're, it's hard to explain. But I like to use the ball because it gives me something to land on as opposed to just dropping all the way down to the floor. Just kind of makes it lazier and is a little bit easier on my wrists and whatnot. Plus, it's a bit more realistic. I wouldn't be, in theory anyways, landing directly on the ground. The person would dive towards my legs, I'd sprawl out, and I would be more on top of them. And probably not going all the way to the ground. That's kind of the point. But this also gives some movement, and because it's a balance ball, or stability ball, it works the stabilizers and stuff too. So you can either hit it towards a partner or hit it towards the wall and let it come back. And then as it comes back to you, pretend like that's a person charging at you, and it helps you work your timing to sprawl on the ball. So this type of movement, let me adjust here. And so what you're doing is you're kicking your legs back, and you usually kind of go off to the side a little bit. And so I would be kind of on top of the guy, and he doesn't have my legs, which would put me in danger, and I'm more on top of him and can kind of control him better. Also, I'm not getting hurt because I'm not getting on, if it's on concrete and somebody just grabs your legs and take you down, you could get hurt just in a fall. But right now, no part of me is on the ground. I'm not injured. He doesn't have my legs. He or she, I suppose. And I'm in a pretty good position to keep fighting. Maybe even get a guillotine or something. So as that ball comes back, you sprawl your legs back and kind of just pick a side depending on whatever number of variables, and just kind of be ready to do something. But just know the fight hasn't ended here. The fight is starting here. It's like you're fighting at this point. So in all of these drills, think like, okay, this is where I fight. So if you want to do, start hitting or something, I find that hitting is a good way to kind of trigger that fighter's and aggressive mentality. So there you go. It's not the most beautiful, or whoops, there's a pipe right there that kind of makes it go a little crazy. But that's just the thing that you're practicing here. These are called sprawls. Let's see, how can I'll just go with that maybe. Since I'm already down on the ground, I might as well stay here. The next thing I wanted to talk about is just basic ground movement. I believe I've made a video about this in the past, but basically the older you get, the harder it is for you to get up off the ground. And the majority of fights do eventually end up going to the ground for various reasons. You're either going to slip and fall, you're going to get thrown down, you're going to get knocked down, whatever. But a lot of times they end up going to the ground. And that was always my greatest weakness. I'd always say, like, as long as I can stay on my feet, I'm fine. But the reality is a lot of times you can't stay on your feet. And so being able to get on the ground and either get back up really quickly or fight on the ground, or at least be able to move. You can't be immobile. So just if you do nothing else, just get on the ground and practice moving around. That could be as simple as just crawling around on your knees, or you can do fancier stuff. It's better if you can kind of be on your feet. Work on some flexibility using all of your limbs. Think of different types of animals and the way they move, and get comfortable with that. You may have seen videos where I'm using the punching bag on the ground and just kind of moving around it. If you've got some pillows, or a friend or child or partner who's going to be willing to just kind of move around on the ground with you, you can do that. As it directly relates to ground fighting, some of the better movements you can do is something called shrimping. And shrimping, the idea is that if you are on the ground being attacked, shrimping allows you to potentially get out from under someone, trying to improve your position. So you're on the ground, on your back, and you're basically using your feet to fold yourself in and move back. So if I'm starting here and I'm shrimping, I'm kind of just starting on the side and like that. And now I'm back here. And so I've actually slid back quite a bit. And so this helps you to be able to move away from someone. If they are on top of me and I've got a gap here, I can go like that, and now my position is better. This person's right here. So let's say he's on top of me, something like this. So I might be able to kind of wiggle around, and we're fighting, and I'm trying to make some space, and then I might be able to kind of go like that and get away from him some. And it's not like I'm not free at this point. I'm not safe, but I'm in a slightly better position. Here, wait, come back like that. And so right here is much better than right here. And right here, I can do something. I can pow, pow. I can try to get up or whatever. I've got options now, at least. Whereas before, I was just trapped underneath him. So that's the purpose of shrimping. In a similar note, we have something called bridging or bucking, which serves a similar purpose. So probably, hold on a sec, seen people do bridges before where you're basically just lifting your butt up off the ground, which looks stupid, admittedly. A lot of this stuff looks stupid. But, here, get on top of me. The other way, like, yep. All right. So, but if I've got a guy on top of me who's trying to hurt me, and I do like this, I've never seen anyone quite do that as a response, but that's giving you some room to get them off. Wait, come back. And this even works with big people, and it's not that you're trying to necessarily get them all the way off of you, send them flying. So it's not necessarily that you're trying to send them flying, get them completely off of you. If it's a really big person, maybe you just can move them a little bit. But if it's enough that you can turn your hips, and now I can shrimp, I'm in a better position. I'm more likely to be able to get away. Or I can do that a little bit, and you can even do things to trap the person, and you kind of do a fuck and turn and get on top of them. So the bridging or bucking and shrimping a lot of times work together, and it's a great defensive ground tactic. Or not tactic, but I don't know. I guess it is a technique, a move, whatever you want to call it. So knowing how to do that. But it's something that, you can't do just like a slow little bridge like that. Like it's you're violently trying to buck this person off, like a bucking bronco. Think of that. You're trying to really knock that person off, get your feet off the ground if you have to, and really boom, pop them up. And if you can combine that with a shrimp, and a lot of times, bridge, shrimp, you're going to be good. So we will do a lot of those. Also working on the ground. So what was that? That was 4 or 5, maybe? I don't know. But also working on the ground. Breakfalls. This is a very, very good thing to know. Breakfalls and the other side of them, in my opinion, is rolls. I find them both to be incredibly useful. I use rolls a lot. Basically, anytime somebody twists my arm or something along those lines, you're just like, ow, 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 they're twisting your arm. Just roll, and you're out of it. There we go. So if somebody has my arm, and they're twisting me, and trying to use this as like some sort of takedown, or even planning on hitting my elbow and breaking it or whatever. At this point, to me, the default easy thing to do is just roll. I didn't let go of this. Now my arm can bend. I'm not out of the clear. I still have to fight, but now I have full mobility of my arm, even if they haven't let go. And a lot of times they do let go once I roll, but not necessarily. But I'm in a better position than I was before. I can actually do something from here. Couldn't really do much in the other position. So rolls are very useful, as are breakfalls. So breakfall, breakfall is exactly what it sounds like. You're breaking your fall. Somebody pushes you down and you feel like you're about to fall. Somebody throws you, whatever the case may be. You don't want to just put one arm down. You certainly don't want to just crack down on your head. You don't want to hit butt first. All those things can cause injury. Your best bet is, if you feel like you're going to fall that way, is to drop down. Is just kind of drop down to a squat, and then just fall backwards and slap the mat. Keep your neck up, your head up, your shoulders rounded. When you slap the mat, that kind of like spreads out the impact. Round your back and just let it roll. And you can fall or get thrown pretty hard that way and not get hurt. So practicing those, being comfortable with those, is a really great way to go. Alternatively, you can back roll, which is what I find I often do. If I'm going backwards, I usually just let the momentum keep carrying me instead of stopping. A lot of times I'll just do a back roll because then I'm back on my feet easily. That's not always possible, but and I'm not going to demonstrate rolls because we've done a video, I think a couple of videos on rolls before. So, And last but not least, I hate them so much, but burpees. Burpees are terrible, but they're also amazing. They work so many different muscles. It's cardio and strength and agility and like everything all built in one. Like it's, I would dare say, the perfect exercise in my opinion. But I hate doing them so bad. But that's kind of what makes them so great. So you squat down, get into a push-up, and you have, actually there's a few variants here. You can either get into a push-up position and actually do a push-up, or you can practice sprawls here. I've seen people do that. So you do have two different options depending on what you want to work on. So actually, let me start back over. So dropping down into a squat, push-up position. I have not done a push-up in a long time. Back to your feet. Stand up with a jump. And they suck. Especially when you have to do a bunch of them. But it's a great way to really, really get the heart rate up, really just kick your own ass. And I think that's all I'm going to do with burpees, because I, like I said, I hate them. And this isn't supposed to be the workout. This is just demonstrating some of the exercises. And so I think that's it for now. In future videos, I'm going to be using a lot of these movements, building on them and adding in some actual techniques, working on how to punch, how to kick, maybe some ideas on how you can kind of try to build that fight mentality and aggression, all this sort of stuff. I'll see how far I can go over the next month. Whew. If this is something that you think could be really cool and helpful to you, please share this video and the ones that follow it, like and subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.